Okay, so a very good evening, all of you, in today's session, the weekly current affair class. Before starting the session, I want to tell you something about the UPSC success stories. And since the result has come, so I want to share. There are many, but I want to share the recent one, which recently happened, where regarding to the student, and she has found her name in the list at the top of the list. I would say, if you see the UPSC result, you know she has secured a very good rank, All India rank 11. Now she was not a regular classroom student. She came through the interview guidance program, but she was in regular touch with me from past 4 5 months. And yeah, and I want to tell you this story because when the success comes, to you, everything's becomes so secondary. And what exactly happened is that when she met me and when I saw her DAF, this was her last attempt, and she had given interview before as well, but she could not get a rank anytime. And when the DAF came in front of me, uh, the first question that I asked that Nupur, are you feeling any pressure because this is your last attempt and you haven't got a rank so far? And her career looked very similar to what I had faced, because she started late and she was exhausting her attempt, the last attempt. Then I asked that, have you got placed somewhere? She said, I recently got placed in Intelligence Bureau, IB, but I could not mention it on the DAF. DAF is there is a form before you go to the interview that is called detail application form. It's a it has two sections, DAF 1, DAF 2, and it has a detailed information about your academics and about everything that you have to give. And so that DAF is what goes in front of the interviewers who take your interview. And we analyze the DAF in detail. So on an average, student, when you secure the interview call, will be investing some 8-10 hours with you individually. And personally, I invest a lot of time with students analyzing each DAF and making questions. I make more than 200-300 questions regarding which can come in the interview, and we analyze them thoroughly. We have one-to-one DAF analysis session. We have mock interviews. We have So Nupur was one of that students. She was not a classroom student, but I just wanted to tell you the success story because everything was, there's nothing in front of her, and this was the last attempt. And she said, sir, I have an IB job which I just got recently posted, but I could not mention in the DAF because when I filled the DAF, that was not there, that job was not there, and I just got the offer letter few days ago. And this conversation we were having in Feb. And I asked, I said, Nupur, may God be with you, and I hope things were going to be good. And then we had several interactions regarding DAF, the questions and all. But the interview was postponed when there was a Janta curfew. From 23rd, there was no interview. So 623 students, because interview were going on right since February, and it was supposed to end in the first week of April. But because of this pandemic, the COVID-19, the interview was suspended. And the last interview which happened was on 21st, I think, because 22nd was Janta curfew. And 623 students could not give their interview. And UPSC said that we'll announce the date. And eventually, the date was of 20th of July. And from 20th of July to 30th of July, interviews were conducted. The remaining students, so that UPSC can give the result. And you'll be surprised to know the interviews were conducted in a PPE kit. The interviews were conducted in a PPE kit, proper PPE kit. Not like the whole cloth thing, but they had a mask, they had a shield, they had mask, they had gloves, they had sanitizers, all of them. And the interviewers, the 5 people sitting there, they also sat like this, and the people who gave interview sat like that on the other end. And interviews were conducted because UPSC is serious about this examination, because it's the most prestigious examination of all the examinations which UPSC conducts. Now, why I'm telling this story, that this is a story where a student has got so much, struggle, and this was a last attempt, and she secured All India rank 11. She persevered, she maintained her effort. I'm not saying that every story will be like that, but every story has its own struggle. There are many other stories also. There is a Priyanshu, there is Bharat Bhushan, there is, there are many whom I know personally from many years, and there are many success stories which I'm going to tell you in coming days. Because those students who I did not speak to any of them today, because I just messaged them and said, enjoy your day, and probably we'll speak after a day or two when this, this euphoria is little in control. So success is something that is going to come only when you persevere. UPSC is about perseverance. It's about, the struggle that you're going every day in, securing. For some people, it will be 2 years. For some people, it will be 3 years. For some people, it will be just 1 year. So every story is different. People start early, they make mistake. There are people who start early and then they secure early rank. There are people who start late and then they secure. Nupur was a case where she started very late and then she secured a rank just when, which was her last attempt. So I want to say to each one of you who are in the class today that, your time will also come. And I would just ask you, each one of you, to persevere, be there. Things are very uncertain today because of this COVID-19, but this shall too pass. Personally, I believe that probably in the coming 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months at the max, maybe by next April, I personally believe that by next April, everything will be normal. But never, you should always learn from the success stories of other people. And I always tell them, don't see the success, see the journey, see the struggle, see the perseverance, see the dedication, see the input. Because everybody's studying the class today. Many people, they don't attend the class. They take the they take the videos later on. They go through the videos. Many people are not adapted to the online thing. So they go through the notes and see the videos. But everybody, whether they see the videos or they're in the live class, for each one of you, I only will urge you all to maintain the preparation. Because today everybody would want to claim, that I was a part of her success story, his success story, this success story, that success story. So that is okay. That is completely okay. And that student will tell you who was the part of their success stories. But every success story, the biggest people who are a part of the success story is your friends, your parents, your mentors. And you should look up to them. You should congratulate them as well, because they have been part of the journey. And you should enjoy your success as well. But for every success that has come, a lot of effort has gone, input has gone, a lot of little sacrifices have gone, but it's all worth the effort. Ye sara worth it hai. Don't worry. Your time will also come. And I just want each one of you to tell yourself that I should continue my journey till the time I get my final name in that list. Rank is immaterial. I have to find my name in the list. That is what your objective should be. Every year I say this, and every year I come across people who make it, who struggle, who make it, who struggle. And, I have so many stories to tell, but I just tell, but, there's a lot of similarity in almost each success story, that all of them never gave up. For some people, it will come very easily, very naturally, in just one go, one attempt. For some people, it takes little time. The reasons, again, we don't know. There many a times the reason is because maybe you made in a wrong, maybe, you made some mistakes in the preparation. I will not go into that today. So I just want to congratulate each of those people who got selected today in the class itself, and many of the students from, my mentoring team that who got selected. And I feel very, you can say, the surge in, I would not say I'm happy. I would say I'm joyous, and I just, want to tell, and I want to see each one of you tomorrow, probably 2 years, 3 years down the line, in the same list. And I see a lot of people with a huge potential amongst you in the class who have the potential, but you have to maintain, and you have to consistent, and you have to reach the end of the journey. Okay. So let's start with today's weekly current affairs. And tomorrow I'm going to share another success story. There are, I'll be sharing a lot of success stories in coming days. And because I have a lot of success stories, I know. And for me today, it is all about positivity. It's all about energy, and it is all about, believing yourself. It is all about how you, carve your own story, because people are at a different level of preparation. They have their own degree of struggle. They have their own degree of challenge, and everybody will make their own mark. But it is, it is the destination which counts. You have to reach the destination. What you'll get tomorrow, what you'll not get tomorrow is something time will tell. But what I'm saying is that unless you try, unless you give an effort, you don't know. So you have to first, you have to give a solid effort and attempt, and things will eventually come in your way. I personally believe that success is something which is very momentary, because moment you get selected today, and a new kind of thing is going to be, defined for you in terms of success. But today, let's take one step at a time, and our focus should be that in the next 1.5 years or next attempt itself, I have to crack the examination. Okay, so let's start with the today's weekly current affairs, with congratulating everybody who got selected. Now, so it's a huge list, but as I mentioned today, I'll be discussing in detail about national education policy. And so the first important topics I'll be taking is National Education Policy 2020. Then, the taxation, that is center's inability to pay GST dues. Then FDI in Air India for NRIs. Then India-UK free trade agreement. Induction of Rafale aircraft in Indian Air Force. Black rain. Protesting is fundamental right. Governor's power to summon the House. And Galapagos Island. So these are the topics, and Global Tiger Day. So these are topics I'll be covering today. The topics which I'm not able to cover today in the next 2 hours, I'll be taking it tomorrow after the class. These will be the, some topics are very static, just fact-wise. So I'll be focusing on those topics which are conceptual and which requires understanding, and of course, which requires some, brainstorming as well. So let's understand and start with the national education policy. Now, question comes in that, I'll close the camera so that you can focus on the content. The question comes in that, what should be the objective of any educational policy? The national education policy has just been unveiled. And every time, so the last two education policy were in 1968 and 86. There was, in 1992 as well, part one. But basically it was, the education policy which came almost, maybe 25 years ago, national education policy came. But before the policy which came, my question is that, is there any problem in our education system? Is there anything which is lacuna or gap? Is there anything that we should be doing, or going beyond the normal that we are saying? Because I always believe that education, or for that matter, what is the purpose of education? What is the purpose of what kind of policy should we have? When we compare our education system with countries in West, in European countries, in USA, things are very different. They are, it is very flexible, it is evolved, unlike our system. I'm not saying that things are not, everything is bad in our system, but I say a lot of things needs to be reformed with change and with time. So the problem with our education system right now, which I see lacuna, is that the first is there's a lot of focus on the technical subjects, or you can say the subject which has utilitarian aspect. Okay, so you have a focus on science, you have a focus on maths, because there's a feeling that these things will get you a job, or maybe, okay, in past few years it has changed. But remember 2 decades ago, when I had to decide what I'll do, and I was relatively a decent student in terms of academics, so my parents forced me, or rather it was very natural. You're good in education, you're good in you get good marks in 10th and 12th, you should go for science. If you have PCM, go for science, go for engineering, go for and other areas like law, social sciences were looked down. So technical, and there's a lot of focus on technical education at higher level. At lower level, there is a complete lack of activity-based learning. Okay, activity-based learning is lacking. In fact, there is a focus on rote memorization. Okay, that is a problem. You tend to make students memorize. You want to focus them to memorize and learn things. Then there is a problem further. I see that there is a completely no focus on creative aspect of education. There is no focus on maybe questioning or critical aspect of the things. Students are never allowed to question, judge, interpret. Rather, what is mentioned in the book is is something you cannot question. If you see the books which we have read in the past so many years, very rarely in the classroom, system, we were encouraged to think and have our own opinion, which might be alternative to the what is written in the book. Because education, or the book में जो content है, you have to go beyond the content. You have to analyze them. The critical thinking or lateral thinking, or creative abilities को inspire करना, that was completely lacking. Then at the same time, I felt that there was a parallel, I would suggest, and I have seen this more in the past 2 decades. There is a parallel prevalence of the coaching industry, and that starts that is very high from the class 9 to 12, but that is almost omnipresent. Okay, almost omnipresent. Without coaching, you cannot do anything. Today, even the small child in nursery, and when the child goes in first standard, second, and the coaching is almost there, and hence, which means that the work done in education or school is practically lacking. Then there is no focus on functional learning. There is no focus on vocational learning. Okay, for example, how many times you have encouraged to do something craft work? How many times you've encouraged to do a learning which probably will help you in the down the line? Maybe there is an extra co-curricular subject is there, but never ever it is given major focus. How many times I personally believe that India is an agrarian economy, and never ever if right from class 6 to 7th or 8th standard, I would say maybe 8 to 10th, there could be a subject which has a practical application. Let's take an example of agriculture, and you are allowed to have an elective subject. Okay, having elective subject where you can choose. Let's say I'm a farming community, so I can choose elective as agriculture and can gain some learning in the agriculture. And by the time, because after 10th or after 12th, I might drop out. There are high chances I might drop out. So if I'll drop out, this learning which I have gone through, through my the vocational aspect, or which will help me in getting a job, or maybe getting a education which might help me in my profession as well tomorrow, that is completely lacking. So this is no vocational aspect. There is no focus on functional learning. There is no focus. It is all about learn the book, learn the facts, write an examination over. Analysis. There is a practically lack of objective learning. Objective examinations नहीं होता. MCQ based learning नहीं होता है. That is, so students are expected to memorize things. There is no little or no focus on analytical aspect of learning. Creative writing, creative thinking. Even if it is done at a very maybe siloed approach in a very small part of the curricular activity. Okay, everything is judged by the way you score, how much you score in 10th or 12th. Believe me, how much you score in 12th will not matter much. I was a 90 percentiler through entire my academics, whether it is 10th or 12th, or today more than 95 38,000 people have scored 95%. In our time, even 90% was tough. Even 90% was tough. There used to be the whole city, there used to be some 10-15 people who 10-15 people who used to get above 85%, and there would be 1 or 2 people in the whole school, and that too good school, who used to score above 90%. And today, almost in a school, almost every school, there are 10-15 people, 20 people scoring 95, 98, 97. I do not understand that. How is it possible? We never got marks in English. We never got marks in Hindi literature. Science, maths, science subject, we always got marks, but not in other subjects. Students from humanities and commerce always got less marks. But today, even commerce, humanities, history, everybody you're getting 100 marks. So this is something I do not understand, because these subjects are these subjects have subjective understanding. You can't you can't give 100% marks in them. Then at higher level, there is no. So if you are a commerce, let's say I choose a science background and I feel unhappy about a science. So can I have flexibility? No. There is completely lack of interdisciplinary approach. Can I have a physics or maths with psychology? Probably not. Can I have physics and maths, and at the same time I want to have sociology? Can I have? No, probably not. I believe that there is complete disregard for social science subject. I was myself a technical, a student from science, and I always felt that okay, I'm from science, I'm superior. That is what the feeling I got right from the beginning, because I felt that I've done my engineering from good college. I'm from science background. I have a lot of knowledge. These humanities people, like that kind of feeling I had. But all that was broken when I left my when I started my UPSC preparation, and then I realized that even the social science subject are very relevant, whether it is psychology, whether it is political science, whether it is public administration or philosophy. But never ever in our academic curriculum हमको कभी motivate किया गया that we should be learning these subjects. When I read sociology, when I read public administration, when I read psychology, when I read ethics, when I read history, I found there's so many things. In fact, some subjects like sociology, public administration, I found them more scientific than the science subject, and I find them very much applicable in the current whatever you're doing around you. I could rarely find an option where maybe some concept which I read in physics or chemistry might be used in real life, but what I read in society or sociology or public administration, I can see direct application everywhere. What I read in economics, I see direct application everywhere. Never ever we got an opportunity. So the problem is that, and we have inherited the education system from British. They have reformed their education system, but we haven't reformed. And this is the problem in UPSC preparation. When people who come from this background, when they start UPSC preparation, UPSC requires the kind of education policy we have. They want you have to have an interdisciplinary approach. They want you to have a learning about science as well. They want you to have learning about history as well, geography as well, economy as well. And they want to be a thinking person. Our education policy should be such that it nurtures individual. It is not about just getting a job. It is beyond that. Job eventually you will get tomorrow one day. But the focus of education policy should be nurturing an individual, making a human being. One of the big challenges or big problem I see in education system is a complete lack of value system. There is a subject called moral science, which you just study in one of the periods in one particular day in a week, and that is a storytelling day. You hardly learn anything from there. Everybody wants to become engineer, doctor, lawyer, this and that, but nobody wants to become a human being. You have to make a society. Education system should sensitize ourselves. It should bring emotions as well. The brain has two parts, the left side and the right side. Our education system is entirely focused on the left hemisphere of the brain, not on the right hemisphere. I completely see lack of I see lack of humanism, compassion, empathy. Extracurricular activities are completely lacking. And even if they're and somebody, when I see, I live in Delhi, when I see around, I see students are running around. So there is an after school, there is a yoga class, there is piano class, there is this class, there, and their parents want to make the child expert in everything. And then eventually what happens? A child knows nothing. So that is a problem. There's a lot of burden we put on our children just because maybe we want them to achieve which we were not able to achieve. The focus of education system should be to make learning, make human being. That should be the focus. Common citizenship conscious. That is what should be the focus. Are you citizen? Do you know about your country? Do you love your country? I'm not saying you should, but do you? So that is where the focus has to be. And in the background of these things which were lacking, when I see this education policy, I do feel that it has tried to address many of the lacunas or gap which in the previously education system was not focusing. This is about the education. The second is about the second part which I feel the current education system is that is over regulation. There was over regulation. There is a lack of autonomy. The institutions, the center of excellences, they have completely zero freedom. And in many areas, even if they want to innovate, it is not possible because we have not developed an ecosystem where innovation is promoted. Innovation ko promote nahi kiya jata hai. I'm not saying that it is not happening anywhere, but we need to make it real. We need to make it, you'll be surprised to know that in the top 100 universities, not even one single university is there in Indian university. I'm not saying that we Indians do not create good students. Definitely. The kind of hard work our student can do, that is unmatched. When you'll go in America, going from Indian education system, you will beat them. But you will face a time where you will feel that whatever I've learned, has little or no value. Okay, so let's understand this policy, and I'll take a lot of time in this national education policy, because I believe that you need to understand what are the problems. The problem is that we are still into a static form of education system, where in innovation R&D is not encouraged, where the focus is more on giving the examination, getting good marks, rather than focus on learning. UPSC की requirement जो मैं बता रहा हूँ, the things which I'm telling you, this is what a national education policy is focusing on. They want, the problem is that when you come from a school system, or you want from a college system, you have a you come from a very different kind of approach. And when UPSC wants you to do something which you have not followed so far, suddenly it becomes very difficult for you. How many of you have got opportunity in your life? कितने लोगों को आपको opportunity मिला where you were expected to write, to vent your feeling, to vent your emotions, to write something in detail with heart? Never ever. Schooling system में possible ही नहीं होता है, follow ही नहीं किया जाता है. And so is with the graduation level. Graduation कैसे होता है? 99% of our except barring 1 or 2% or 5% of the institute, 99% or maybe 95% students में तो बच्चे सिर्फ exam देते हैं. They hardly have proper classes. There is a complete, I would say, breakdown of education system in our country, and that is more true about states like UP and Bihar. These are, UP is notorious for that. I am from UP, but I don't I have seen how things run here. We are making mockery of education system. We are making mockery of the coming generation. The kind of completely, because you want to pass the examination, you want to get mark, and you are there is a whole Shiksha mafia thing that is running. But I feel very unhappy about all these things. Maybe this education policy will try to put things in back, but only time will tell. But it is a good beginning. It has tried to address almost all the concerns of which previously has been there. It has made some new additions. So let's understand them. And in the background, as as I'm going to discuss these things, I'm also going to discuss about the problems. So Union Cabinet has approved the new education policy NEP 2020 with the aim to introduce several changes in the Indian education system from school to college. So it is comprehensive, right from schooling, right from the time you're 3 years till the time you pass the graduation or post-graduation, is going to cover everything. It aims at making India as a global knowledge superpower. Okay, let's see. The cabinet has approved renaming the Ministry of Human Resource Development to Ministry of Education. So maybe that HRD is way too high, because HRD, we are just focusing on education part here. Human resource goes because human resource is about skill as well, health as well. Okay, so that is where that is why they have renamed it. The NEP cleared the cabinet by cabinet is a third major revamp. The last two were in 1968 and 86. So ये तीसरा policy है. Now let's take step by step. First is school education. So let's go back to the school. So what kind of thing that हमने school system में क्या चाहिए? First is universalization of education from preschool to secondary school with 100% GR. यानी आपका जो preschool to secondary level, जो secondary level का जो school है वहां पर we want that 100% of the children should be in the school. So gross enrollment ratio means how many students are enrolling. So we want 100% enrollment. That's the first thing. To bring 2 crore out of the school children back to the mainstream. So these students are outside the school for whatever reason. They are poor, they are rag pickers, they are child laborers. So we have to bring back to the system. Then the current system is 10 plus 2. This needs to be replaced by 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, which means the first would be 3 to 8 years. Okay, right from, so 3 years would be the entry stage. Then the second 3 would be from 8 to 11 years. Then the next 3 would be 11 to 14, and the last 4 years would be 14 to 18 years. Okay, so that would be the current objective. कैसे करेंगे? Today we just have a model. Maybe implementation will take another decade, but we just have a model, because education is a concurrent subject. Concurrent subject means center and state both have a say. Okay, so central government institute, maybe this curriculum can be it can be brought in, but in the state government, every state government have their own approach. So what the government of India can do, that they can make a macro policy, वो policy बना के they can urge the state that you follow the same system, or you try to bring or reform your system based on what we have discussed and what we want. So the point I'm discussing all this thing, these points probably will be incorporated in step by step manner in the schools and colleges in the coming years. Only time will tell. It will try to bring uncovered age group from 3 to 6 under the school curriculum, which have been recognized globally as a crucial stage of development of the mental faculties of the child. So ये 3 to 6 years है, इस पर बहुत focus होना चाहिए. I personally believe that this is a phase of learning. It will also have 12 years of schooling along with the 3 years of Anganwadi and preschooling. So 3 years of Anganwadi plus 12 years of schooling. Okay, so preschooling in many developed countries, the education starts at age of 5. So आप 5 years में school जाते हो. उससे पहले they have it's up to parents, because they feel that a student should go to the school where you learn or you gather knowledge in an environment which is formal only at the age of 5, because उससे पहले you are so small and that you practically, it is impossible for you to set in a structured learning. So the first is the foundational stage. ये आज का है 10 years 6 to 16, then 2 years 6 to 18. Okay, so यहाँ आप 12th pass कर रहे हो. Now let's try to understand this. So first is the first 3 years. That after 3 years, the 3 years Anganwadi preschooling, that will be from age to 3 to 6. इसको बोला इन्होंने बाल वाटिका. Foundational stage, multi-level, play, activity-based learning. What is activity-based learning? So how do you learn maths and how do you learn, okay, so how do you learn any subject? So A, B, C, D, A, B, C. So you memorize A, B, C, D. Okay, and students tend to memorize. Okay, then then I'll say A for apple. So when I say A for apple, I'll show you a picture of apple. Okay, and I'll expect you to imagine A for apple instead of giving you an original apple and telling you, see, this is apple and this is then this apple is we have named this fruit as apple and it starts from A. So that is where activity-based learning, that you are learning through activities. You're not learning in a proper classroom environment where I'm putting everything on the board and asking you to note down and memorize and say A for apple, B for boy, C for cat, D for dog, like that. Okay, so activity-based learning is that we make a small group of 4-5 people and we self-paced learning karate hain. We'll give them gadgets, we'll give them things, we'll tell them stories, and that is how their learning starts. So how that will be there, we don't know, but many schools, for example, Tamil Nadu is a very important state which has a very good activity-based learning. They started decades ago, and they're doing very well. But most of the schools that we have in India, they have kind of mixed approach. I do see that the new schools today, they're learning from it and they're trying to bring all these aspects. Then 2 years, the foundational stage will be there. Then the preparatory stage, play, discovery, activity-based, interactive, and classroom learning. So this would be there. Okay, so this will be preparatory. This is whole foundational. Foundational is 5 years. Then you go to the middle stage, experimental learning in science, mathematics, art, social sciences, and mathematics. So आपको middle stage में you have to learn everything, and then probably here you will decide your areas of interest, and then you'll go to the next stage, secondary stage, and here you will have a multidisciplinary approach. Multidisciplinary का मतलब ये है that today we have 3 streams. We have humanities, we have commerce, and we have we have science. Okay, so if you are from commerce background, you can't choose science. So why can't I choose one subject here, one subject here, and one subject here? So maybe I want to have a multidisciplinary approach. So a multidisciplinary approach is approach will try to ensure that people have people can decide the subject that they are interested in and they want to focus. I can learn psychology with maths, there's not a problem. But if I want to pursue science stream, then I can't have psychology as subject. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. It is focused on critical thinking. Critical means you question things. You tend to question things and you come with the right answer. Okay. Flexibility. Student choice subjects should be there. So these are the secondary stage. The new academic structure will be there. How it will be implemented? Because I personally feel that the first schools have to be adapted. पहले school को adapt करना होगा, and then after the school is adapted, then we'll go to the next level where I believe that before student, the teachers have to be which have to be focused on. Because they need learning, they need training, so they can adapt their teaching method with the requirement of the new academic thing that we want to bring. Okay, so that is how the approach should be. The 10th and 12th board examination to be made easier to test core competencies rather than memorize fact, with all students allowed to take exam twice. The school governance set to change with a new accreditation framework, independent authority to regulate both public and private schools. Emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy. Numeracy, very important. Foundational. Anything which you learn, it has a utility as well. But numeracy, जैसे आप अभी क्या problem आता है? So there is a body called Pratham, and they come about report on the education system every year, and they said that class, 5th student in India, they are not able to solve second class maths. Okay, so that is a problem. Now you cannot be, you can't leave the school. आपको school से हम बाहर नहीं निकाल सकते हैं, because recently till now we had a policy where everybody till class 8th had to be promoted. Okay, so a class 5th ka student cannot do a mathematics of class 2, and that is a problem. So we have to, and that is to correct this. Government started a Padhe Bharat, Badhe Bharat, a kind of mission they started, and they brought a lot of reforms here. I'm going to discuss this in detail in the education topic that we're going to cover. But here, they want to focus on foundational literacy, numeracy, no rigid separation between academic streams, extracurricular activities, vocational streams in the schools. Now, this is very good, and I think this is the most important part, vocational education. What is vocational education? Vocation, any education which helps you in getting a job. So let's say you are learning a course on plumbing, or let's say you're learning on a course on carpentering, or fitting, or electrician. Okay, remember, when you learn these things, it will help you get a job. So vocational education should be a part of the subject. Maybe you can choose it as your elective. You can start it early. To start with class 6 with internship. So student can start vocational education right from class 6, and that to internship, and this will help you in knowing maybe the area of interest or the thing that you can do, and maybe you can decide your future career in that area as well. Only time will tell how they will be implemented on ground, because these are some macro structures. Okay, then teaching up to at least grade 5 to be in mother tongue, regional languages, and no language will be imposed on any student. Now this is very important. Remember, though I personally believe that English has become so omnipresent that it is practically impossible to undo things, but yes, I do feel that student, all the students, they have a, for example, when I see student in Delhi in schools, they focus on learning English completely. Okay, बच्चा अंग्रेजी सीख लेगा, it is not a big deal. When I see parents, teachers telling that you should speak all the time English, I said no, you have to make a student learn the mother tongue as well, the language. If you don't know your mother tongue, अपनी भाषा नहीं जानते हो, तो how do you expect? Because the language is also depicts the culture. When you know your language, you know your culture, then you will learn a lot of things. When I learn English, I will not learn about maybe the Indian culture, or maybe I learn them in English, but that essence is not there. So I believe that the mother tongue should also be focused, and I believe that every state should focus more. But problem kya ho jata hai, there is so much of mother tongue that the other things are disregarded. So parents automatically feel that they should put their child in the school which is English, because they see English as a link language, and English will fetch them good jobs tomorrow, or maybe maybe today it is no more. Maybe 2 decades ago it was probably, you can say, a kind of you belong to elite class because you can communicate in English. No more today, because so many But again, remember, I find very few people who can communicate very good effectively in English as well. So, but I do believe that I'm a votary of mother tongue. I believe that you will learn your language, you need to learn your culture, you need to learn your history. Okay, and that can come with mother tongue as well. So that is very important. Then 360-degree holistic progress card. Ye kya hoga? Only time will turn. The focus should be on learning outcome. Now this has always been a question mark, question that what about outcome? Learning outcome should be focused. When I'm studying in class 5, what is my outcome? Is it getting marks, or is it about real learning? Am I able to understand the subject or not? आप लोग NCERT पढ़ते हो, and the problem you face in NCERT only because you have not read the books in class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th as you should have read. आपको focus था marks लाने पे. Never ever you focused on learning. Never you focused on understanding the subject, and that is where the problem is. Can you visualize economy? Can you visualize history? Can you visualize science? Can you see, when you walk around, do you see science moving above your head? And if not, probably you have not read science probably then, because that is what is needed. Okay, so focus should be on the learning outcome. A new and comprehensive national curriculum framework will be made for teachers as well. Will be formulated by National Council for Teacher Education and NCERT. By 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be 4-year integrated B.Ed course. So that is the requirement. अब वो 4-year integrated B.Ed कैसे होगा? Only time will tell. Now, after going from the school education, let's move to the higher education. So higher education, GER, gross enrollment ratio in higher education is to be raised by 250% by 25. So abhi kitna hai? Just right now it is 26.3%. What does it mean? It means out of every 100 students who are passing class 12, just 26.3% are able to complete their higher education. Now that is very less. Okay, So हमारे पूरे population में 26.3% are actually people who are able to get higher education. Now I'm not saying that everywhere it is higher education, because many people leave their education at early because of various reasons. Many people belong from a lower income group people, they need to get job, they can't study, they can't afford good quality education. Okay, this is the problem. So the higher education को हमें 50% करना है. That is a target which I believe is not an easy target, but yes, we are still on the track, because I remember in past 7-8 years which I've been teaching, 10 years, more than 10 years, but higher education का enrollment बहुत तेजी से बढ़ रहा है. So that is a good indication. Government wants to add 3.5 crore seats also to the higher education. Now this point is important: holistic undergraduate examination with flexible curriculum. 3 to 4 year with multiple exit option. Multiple exit option matlab I'm studying science for 2 years, and let's say 4 year ka course hai. I leave that 2 year here and maybe join some other course. Okay, maybe history course. Okay, after 2 years, so I can do it. People do it all the time. In developed countries, they have this flexibility. We don't do it. So abhi maine jitna science padha, uska appropriate certification I'll have, and after that I can choose other subject, and that is how you are allowing flexible to the student in the curriculum. I did engineering, and that was almost 15 years ago. So when I did my engineering 15 years ago, I did well in the engineering. I scored the marks as well, but I did not know that the job which I'm going to do tomorrow is the job I'm interested in. But I did the job because it paid for my bills. It paid for my bills, it paid for my rent, it paid for my whatever little enjoyment I want to have. But I never enjoyed my job, because I never felt that this is my real calling, and never ever I got an opportunity to assess that. कभी मुझे मौका नहीं मिला. But I think education system should allow students to assess, to understand what they need, where their real interest lies, and for that you need a flexible curriculum, because many a time student does not they want to do. Today we have an option of career counseling. We have people, experts coming from different areas. They're helping with you with things. So I think there should be an approach where I can hit and try and then reach to the real thing where I want to reach. Okay, so that is where the approach should be. Okay, MPhil course will be discontinued. Okay, so in many areas MPhil courses were allowed. It is not needed actually, because we have new kind of exams, NET and JRF and all those things are assessing that. So undergraduate, post and PhD will be now interdisciplinary, which means I can do have 2 subjects at higher level as well, and that is what is needed. Academic bank of credit. Credit means आपको जो credit score मिलेगा to be established to facilitate transfer of credit. So if you want to switch from one subject to another, again the credit can help you doing that. So that is higher education. How time will ये कैसे होगा? Only time will tell. But I do believe that this is going to be very good in the coming years, and let's see how this changes. Okay, so you can read this: universal education, literacy, all that I discussed. New umbrella regulators, flexible, holistic, multidisciplinary undergraduate course. Okay. One good point is that government will increase the spending. Abhi spending government ka kitna hai? Around 4.4% of the GDP. Now that is very less. Remember, we are spending 4.4% of the GDP on education. Developed countries do it 8%, 9% on education. So we need to increase it. I can't reach 8%, but at least 6% in coming years, and this will ensure higher allocation. आप ज़्यादा allocate करोगे, so you can invest, and you can focus on more on quality, and that is what is there. Okay. As I said, multidisciplinary education research universities at par with IIT and IIM. उस पर चाहिए. We need. Remember, every country have their own approach. So I can't follow the approach of other countries. We need to develop our own approach, and that has to be multidisciplinary, and we need center of excellence across horizontals and verticals, because you can learn science, then you can learn psychology, and you can find strong correlation between science and psychology, and that is what we should be looking at. Okay, so then we have a regulator, higher education of isko regulation karne ka maybe rahega future, except for medical and legal education, and private and public education institution will be governed by the same set of norms and regulation. Okay, so we have 4 independent verticals also, jo ye name kiye gaye, you can read them. So in a nutshell, I can say that government want to bring a multidisciplinary approach, want to focus on research, want to ensure that regulation is jo abhi tak ka regulation hai usme bahut fault hai. So we need to, it is very centralized system, so we need to decentralize it, and we have to give a lot of autonomy to colleges. मुझे course develop करना है. Let's say I'm in a college and I want flexibility to decide my course. अभी मुझे यूजीसी डिसाइड करता है वो कोर्स कौन सा चला सकते हो नहीं चला सकते हो. What if I can start my own course and I can send a proposal and they can approve it. Okay, so maybe that is what is needed in the coming years. So time बताएगा कैसे होगा. Affiliation of college to be established, phased out in 15 years, and stage wise mechanism to be established for granting graded autonomy to colleges. Over a period of time, every college is expected to develop either an autonomous degree granting college or constituent college of a university. National Research Foundation will be created as an apex body for fostering strong research culture and building research capacity across higher education. इंडिया का जो R&D है, we are just investing 0.9% of GDP. Countries like China, they're investing 2% of their GDP. We need to increase it because this is where innovation. अब innovation कहाँ हो रहा है? England में हो रहा है. Innovation where is happening, other countries, and we are trying to bring that. Countries like Germany, countries like USA, countries like Russia. अभी Russia ने Russia is the first country which might come with the vaccine. We don't know it is going to work or not, but they are way too ahead in technology and science. Okay, so we should learn from them and we should focus. जबकि Russia is also not a country which have a lot of money and resources. Their legacy is so strong, and they're just counting on the legacy. In terms of military, in terms of technology, आप उनको question नहीं कर सकते हो. Definitely their economy is weak. So we need to focus on those areas. Then only things are going to change. So this is where higher education research should be focused on. Other areas could be autonomous body called National Education Technology Forum, where technology digital platform should be created for learning, assessment, planning, and administration. National assessment sector called PARAK has been created to assess for students. It also paves the way for foreign universities to set up campus in India. अभी ये बड़ा debatable है. Foreign universities setting a cap. What if Oxford sets a campus in India? What if Cambridge sets a campus in India? What if MIT sets a campus in India? So if these foreign institutions they come in India, so we fear because we feel that it will only help the elite. Okay, because they will focus on commercialization because revenue. So that is what they are thinking. But remember, we have to try them. We have to because it will allow technology to come in, maybe new teaching methodologies. It will have like exchange programs, and that is how it will be there. Yes, government can maybe have for their own social responsibility. Government can say that you have to divide 25% of seat for from a lower income group people or people from this side, or people maybe 25% to 30% seats should be devoted entirely for people from background who can do some test or can come from there. Okay, so that is where it is needed. Okay, then other changes could be yes, definitely. Yes, competition will increase and it will raise the bar for our own institution. अभी बाहर को कोई अच्छा player education system आता है, so our own bar will go up. Definitely affordability will be a concern, and there government can fund those people who probably cannot afford there. Okay, then emphasis on gender inclusion fund, special education zones, Institute for Pali, Persian, Prakrit. These are old ancient languages. They need to be we need to nurture them. Indian Institute of Translation Interpretation, increase the GDP spending. Okay, all these are the areas which would be there, and of course the digital drive will be another area where government will try to use technology in a very strong way. So these are the areas of national education policy. It is very difficult for you to understand all these things in a nutshell, but try to understand. If you have to see at macro level, national education policy aims at ensuring that education system which is inclusive, which is participatory, which has holistic approach, where there is a lot of research, there is a stakeholder feedback. Up mera input lo, I'm a student, or the people who are involved in that process, they should be there. It will shift towards more scientific approach to education, and it will able to the ability of the child. See, every child is different. You can't judge a child by the ability of ability of the marks he or she is scoring. Okay, focus on the cognitive emotional development, psychological development. So all these things need to be focused, and if we are able to work on all these areas, then only things are going to happen in long run positively. Okay, so that is the national education policy is all about. Now BIS care, I'll cover them later. Now I'll cover this topic called GST. So recently, as per the research, as per the central government saying, it said that now GST, goods and services tax, which was implemented on 17, and GST is is a tax system which integrates the India's indirect tax system, और ये 17 taxes को add करके one tax for whole country, and this is indirect tax. Okay, so what is indirect tax? What is that? If you read tax में दो word याद रखना. One is the liability and the burden. Any tax where burden is on you but liability to pay lies on the seller. For example, when you joined ISH, the fees that you're paying, the tax is included. So burden is on you. Okay, so let's say 18% GST, the burden is on you, but liability will be on us. So we have to pay GST every month. On 20th every month we have to pay GST. So a tax where burden आपके ऊपर है and liability is on the seller, जो भी जिससे आप खरीद रहे हो सामान है, जो सर्विस ले रहे हो. So that is called indirect tax. On the contrary, a tax where liability and burden एक ही पे है, so that will be direct tax. So indirect tax, for example, GST है. So when you eat food, bill में GST mentioned है. Who has the burden? You are paying the bill. The burden आपके ऊपर है. But the restaurant owner will have to pay to the government that amount of tax. So GST is an indirect tax, and it was believed that GST is going to be a game changer because the whole country will have one tax. Now, if you try to understand, India has today 28 states. We have one, union government, and then we have two or rather three, state, UT, or you can say union territories, which have their own taxing structure. Now, the point I want to make here is that we have more than 30 plus at center and state level. We have bodies जो tax लेते हैं. So every state is taking their own tax. So we have so many states. Central government is also taking tax. Now, when you run a country or when you try to do business in the country, the problem you face here is that let's say I'm doing my business in 5 states. So I have to deal with 5 tax authorities. I'm doing business in UP, so I have to deal with UP. I have to deal, I'm doing business in Delhi, so I have to deal with the different taxing people in Delhi, and that is a problem. So it was believed that why don't we, integrate and have one tax for all India, and whatever revenue is going to come, it will be shared between center and state government. So that was envisaged, called goods and services tax, and for the first time, it was envisioned by Vijay Khelkar. He made a report in fiscal consolidation. और पहली बार budget में in 2010 budget it was discussed that we want to implement this tax, but it took many years and eventually it got implemented in 2017. Now what is the concern right now? Now because of this, before the pandemic, जब COVID-19 आया था, then Indian economy was going through a rough phase. Okay, and in the rough phase from last 8 quarters or rather 2 years, हमारा जो ग्रोथ था, इकोनॉमी का ग्रोथ, द जीडीपी ग्रोथ, वो कम हो रहा था. इट वाज डिक्लाइनिंग. सो व्हेन द जीडीपी ग्रोथ जब डिक्लाइन हो रहा था, इट वाज अ बिग चैलेंज बिकॉज इट्स लाइक योर इकोनॉमी इज गोइंग लाइक दैट एंड यू हैव टू रिवाइव इट. बट रिवाइव करना मुश्किल था, एंड गवर्नमेंट वाज गोइंग फॉर रिफॉर्म्स एंड गवर्नमेंट वाज ट्राइंग टू कैसे हम सही करें, एंड इट फेल्ट लाइक थिंग्स might happen good in the coming months, and this pandemic struck. ठीक है, ये फरवरी से ये पैंडेमिक स्टार्ट हो गया. Now when this pandemic came in, the business got impacted heavily across. So when the business got impacted, tax revenue impact हुआ. And here, so whatever GST collection happens, a part of it go to the state government and a part of it go to the central government. Many areas are collected by state government, central government, and they are given to the state government. So here it says that the government is not in a position to pay goods and service share of the state as per the current revenue sharing formula. And what was the formula? We'll understand that. The formula is that जो उन्होंने agreed था 2017 में आया था, उसका एक formula था. तो अभी क्या किया? Problem क्यों हो रही है? Problem इसलिए हो रही है because in 2021 there has to be revenue shortfall due to the pandemic. Even GST collection for March 2020 saw a dip. I personally saw when I saw the June collection. And when I saw the July collection, I feel there was little revival, but not like last year. So अगर central government को tax नहीं मिलेगा, तो the state government को भी नहीं देंगे. Okay, and hence they are looking at ways in which they can rework the formula if revenue collection drops below a certain level. Because remember, central government है या state government है, इनके जो expenditures हैं, their expenditures are fixed. Okay, their expenditure are fixed. It is very, difficult to reduce the expenditure. And because of this pandemic, there is an increased welfare budget, there is increased healthcare budget, and this has added to the burden already that we had. So revenue collection is something that government will have to find ways in, they have to increase it, but government is facing this problem. So GST collection का shortfall रहेगा. Okay, little on the GST compensation. कैसे होता है? GST became applicable on the 1st July 2017 after the enactment of 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, with large number of tax, central and indirect taxes merged into a single tax. So अभी single tax है, one India, one tax, okay, one economy, like that. So center promised compensation to the state for any shortfall. तो center ने क्या कहा कि भी for the next 5 years, when GST came implemented in 2017, तो 2022 तक जो भी revenue shortfall होगा, we will pay, okay, we will pay for the revenue shortfall with 14% growth. यानी जो revenue आज रहेगा उसका हर year 14% हम growth add कर देंगे. So but after the implementation of GST, it has not happened because GST had its own complication. Our GST system was complex and government was not able to come with a solution which is actually making business to work easily. अभी GST added to the new complication. Already जो system था उसको और complicate कर दिया. ऐसा people, the taxpayers are saying. So the collection has been going down and that is a big problem. GST compensation paid out of compensation cess at every 2 months by the center to the state. कैसे होता है? GST का बताता हूँ. GST में 5 brackets है, 0, 5, 12, 18 and 28. Okay, so ये essential item पे है जिसपे टैक्स लगता है and next ये है. Apart from that, there is a cess. Cess मतलब टैक्स पे भी टैक्स लगता है, टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने एक सामान खरीदा, लग्जरी आइटम खरीदा और लग्जरी आइटम कार है. ओके, सो कार मान लो 5 लाख की है एंड देयर इज अ टैक्स ऑफ लेट्स से 20%. सो 5 लाख पे टैक्स कितना लगा? 5 लाख इंटू 20% इज 1 लाख. ठीक है, अभी जो 1 लाख टैक्स है, ये 1 लाख टैक्स हो गया. ओरिजिनल कार प्राइस है कितना हो गया? 5 लाख. बट अभी जो 1 लाख टैक्स है इस पर एक और टैक्स लगेगा, सेस. नाउ सेस इज ऑन टैक्स इटसेल्फ. तो गवर्नमेंट ने कह दिया 20% सेस लग रहा है लेट्स से. तो 1 लाख पर जो टैक्स है उस पर 20% सेस लगा रहा हूं. सेस मतलब टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. सेस इज अ टैक्स ऑन टैक्स. तो ये कितना हो गया? 20,000. 1 लाख का 20% इज 20,000. नाउ ये जो 20,000 है, इट इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन सेस और ये हम स्टेट्स को देंगे. किस पे लगेगा? लग्जरी आइटम पे. ओके, सो दैट इज द लग्जरी आइटम पे हम फिर से हम ये पे करेंगे. ओके, तो ये जो हो गया आपका टोटल गाड़ी का कॉस्ट कितना हो गया? 20,000 और हो गया. तो 5 + 1, 5.2 लाख विल बी द टैक्स अमाउंट. तो सॉरी टोटल अमाउंट. तो ये जो 20,000 वाला है वो स्टेट को हम जो है रेवेन्यू देंगे. ओके, सो दैट इज जीएसटी कॉम्पनसेशन. बट ये 20,000 जो जीएसटी कॉम्पनसेशन है ये कहां लगता था? ऑन लग्जरी एंड सिन गुड. व्हाट इज सिन गुड? लाइक सिगरेट, अल्कोहल. सो दीज आर सिन गुड्स. सिन मतलब खराब आइटम, बट गवर्नमेंट उस पर हाई टैक्स लगाती है and that is how they generate revenue. So these are soon all the taxpayers except those who export specific notified good. अच्छा, फिर एक कॉम्पनसेशन स्कीम भी दिया. तो अल्टीमेटली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट टैक्स देती है. बट इन अ नटशेल वी कैन से कि बिकॉज ऑफ द पैंडेमिक रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन कम हुआ है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का, तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को पे नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. एंड दैट इज द होल न्यूज इन द नटशेल. व्हाई? बिकॉज ऑफ द पैंडेमिक, बिकॉज ऑफ द ऑल द एनालिसिस. जो गवर्नमेंट का प्लानिंग था कि बजट में इस साल इतना होगा, revenue इतना आएगा, government does not know anything. Government has no clue. Government has no idea. Government does not know कि 2 months के बाद क्या होगा. Even if you ask Mr. Modi or Amit Shah, they will not be able to tell you because they themselves do not know. Because yesterday, just 2 days ago, ICMR was saying कि we don't know whether second wave आएगा कि नहीं आएगा. किसका wave? COVID-19 का. अभी COVID-19 का first wave तो खत्म होने दो, second wave की बात हो रही है. So in the first wave, COVID-19 was there first in the big cities. It was in metros, Delhi, Mumbai. Now it is reaching the small cities. It is going to the villages. It is a big challenge. We don't know how many people have COVID. We have tested more than 2 crore people, but that is way too less. अभी भी कम है ये. So this is a huge challenge, and ये जो पूरा issue है, it has impacted economy, businesses more. Areas like hospitality, areas like hotel industry, areas like transport sector, tourism. वो practically closed है. Even I would say education, practically closed है. Okay, so this is the problem. The committee held its first meeting after the lockdown instead of discussing the state of the financing innovation system and India's growth companies. Okay, so अभी हमें ये देखना पड़ेगा कि क्या करना है. We have to get an idea of how we'll generate finances, and we don't know how the government कैसे respond करेगी. Government is even government does not know when we'll have a solution for this pandemic, and probably in the coming years, things are going to be, maybe positive. Okay, so that is the gaps क्या है, collection कम हुआ है, and the cess inflows have reduced. cess मतलब tax on tax कम हो गया है, because people are अभी luxury पे आपने tax लगाया, luxury कोई खरीद ही नहीं रहा है. Luxury क्या है? Car is a luxury. Let's say costly cars are luxury. So people, because there is uncertainty, जब economy में uncertainty होता है, see, economy has a very basic rule: faith, optimism, and certainty. So when these areas are there, business chalega. Let's say if government tells कि on this particular day COVID खत्म हो जाएगा, but even government does not know. On this particular date आपने business खोला and suddenly there is a case. आपके घर, आपकी बिल्डिंग में केस हो गया, आपका बिजनेस भी 1 महीने के बंद कर दिया. So you don't want to invest, you don't want to do business. आपको पता ही नहीं है कि बिजनेस में सर्टेनिटी है कि नहीं है. So this is a big problem, and that is where the problem is hitting the economy. Once you start, lockdown खत्म हो गया, but mini lockdowns are happening. In UP, I don't know whether but I'm in UP right now. Saturday, Sunday is complete close. At 5 p.m. It is complete locked. And you know what happened? Just few days ago, a known person of mine, he opened, he was closing his shop, and it was 5:01 p.m. Police came, and he challaned, and he was challaned for 20,000 rupees. Can you believe that? Police challaned that person. It was just 5 p.m. He was just closing the shop. He said, "You are 1 minute late. We are challanning you 20,000." Because for the compliance, you're putting so much fine. Now, I'm not saying that it is wrong, but I'm just saying that see the level of. Now, how do you expect the business people? They start at 10, and they're closing at 5 p.m. That too from Monday to Friday. In Kolkata, in West Bengal, they have oddly announced, कि इस दिन close रहेगा economy. So this is not how economy works. Economy works on regularity. Economy works on certainty. Economy works on understanding that tomorrow this is going to happen tomorrow. And economy works on the faith. So these are the problems, and hence I think government will have tough time managing things. Businesses will have tough time, and this is going to be a trying year for everybody, for all of us. In fact, many of you are in the colleges right now, and I'm going to tell you that this year is the normal college practically probably will not going to start. And even if they're going to start, I don't think so, unless until we have a vaccine, we have a medicine, we have certainty, then only college will start. So all of you should focus on the learning at your level. Whatever, I can completely understand the problems you're going through, because even I'm a person who like to discuss on on whiteboard with marker, and and tell stories on rather than discussing here. So even this is a good platform, I would say. But offline का भी एक अपना एक अलग value है. Okay, so so difficult payments can go to there, and government will have to find ways in which the revenues can be improved. So Chief Solutions have suggested center to raise special loans against future GST cess accruals. Pandemic has shown multiple challenges in front of the center and state. They need to have more certainty and clarity on the cash at their disposal, which would help them to battle the virus more effectively. There needs to boost the economic growth of the country, and government needs to think the way through which it can increase the GST collections. So that is the total GST areas. Okay, so sabko samajh mein aaya? You can read it. It's pretty, if there's something technical, don't worry, because I'll be taking a taxation topic in economics, and I'll be discussing GST at a very basic level from the exam point of view. Now, another problem is again revenue generation, and one area government is thinking to generate revenues through privatization. Privatization का मतलब क्या है? That government of India selling companies of government to private people. And one area is Air India. Air India is government of India is feeling that Air India is like a white elephant which needs to be sold, because Air India के साथ problem क्या है? That it has been in losses since many years, since almost a decade. So but there are no takers because government, Air India has a debt of more than 48,000 crore. Okay, who's going to pay 48,000 crore? So these are the problems which Air India is going through, and hence we have to find a way out. So recently Ministry of Finance has allowed NRI to have 100% FDI. यानी आप NRI कोई बाहर का है, NRIs हैं, they can come and bring their investment and do it 100% of Air India. That means Air India can be purchased by the foreign direct investment, but by NRIs only. Okay. For the same, necessary amendments have been made in the foreign exchange management rules. In March 2020, Cabinet approved a policy to permit foreign investment up to 100% by those NRI who are Indian nationals in Air India through automatic route. Foreign investment in Air India, including that of foreign airlines, shall not exceed 49% directly or indirectly in the case of those NRIs who are Indian nationals. तो 100% जो है investments allow कर दिया है, and because government wants कि the money should come because there are no takers, and I believe that even whatever government is trying to do, it is very difficult for government to get the right price because airline industry right now is going through a big challenge. और मुझे ऐसा लगता नहीं कि अगले 2-3 साल तक airline industry is going to revive back to its normal situation. Okay, so we have to work. So amendment removes the exception that permitted OCI, air transport, not Air India. तो पहले क्या था? OCI, overseas citizen of India. Overseas मतलब Indian origin के जो लोग हैं, they can be citizen or non-citizen. उनको हम overseas citizen of India कहते हैं. So these people were allowed to invest in the air transport but not Air India. But अब वो Air India में 100% FDI कर सकते हैं. Okay, that is it. And who will regulate all that? RBI will regulate the entire thing. FDI को regulate करने का RBI काम है. And it would likely to smoothen the disinvestment of Air India and have impact on the sale of the national carrier. Substantial ownership and effective control of Air India will have to be remain in the hands of Indian nationals. Remember, we are not going to sell to anybody. We're going to sell only to Indian national. Indian national मतलब Indians जो citizens रहे हैं पहले, उनको हम देने का कोशिश करेंगे. Further, it will lead to increased FDI inflows and thereby contribute to higher investment, income and employment. So this is 100% FDI. तो हम Indians Air India को बेचेंगे भी तो Indians को बेचेंगे, even if they are living in foreign countries, not in India. Okay, so that shows intent of the government that they are liberalizing the FDI. They have a global visibility for Air India because Air India is still a very strong airlines in terms of route. It has the most good routes with them, and if the air travel becomes normal, people who are running Air India will have huge amount of income and revenue. And it is believed that today India is the 5th largest airlines in the world. But by 2030, it is expected that India is going to become number 1 in the aviation industry. So that is a huge opportunity in coming years, and only time will tell how things will go. So there is a huge opportunity for people who want to invest in the airline industry, and the need for privatization is something that government is looking at because government के पास revenue नहीं है, and they feel that maybe privatization is a way forward. So Air India, government may not be in a position to fulfill the demand put by Air India in the current situation, like providing measure to the relief to the employees. So ये एक challenge है. Only time will tell whether this will fruitful. I personally believe, if you ask me, I don't think so. Air India is going to be sold anytime in the near future. But government is trying all the effort from their end. तो ये जो पैसा बाहर से आता है इंडिया में, उसको हम लोग what we call it as a foreign direct investment. FDI क्या होता है? Foreign direct investment, which means a foreign company or individual, when they invest in India to another country. But remember, what is the intention? Their intention is long term. वो long term stay करना चाहते हैं. They purchase a stake in the company. Okay. Generally, FDI takes place when investor establishes foreign business operations, acquires foreign business assets, including establishing ownership and controlling assets in the foreign company. जैसे कोई foreign company आई और उसने Indian company का 50% खरीद लिया, that is FDI. Okay. There is one more option called FPI, foreign portfolio investment. That is different. FDI is a long-term approach. A company wants to invest in a foreign company, wants to invest in Indian company, and they want to stay. FPI, on the contrary, is like purchasing the share of the company. Investing in the stock market. Normally जो rule होता है वो कहता है if you are investing less than 10% of the market value of the company, ठीक है, तो उसको हम लोग FPI बोलते हैं. But if investing more than 10, मान लो एक कंपनी 100 करोड़ की है, मेरी कंपनी मान लो 100 करोड़ की है, and if a foreign company wants to purchase, want to invest, and they say I am taking, I'm investing 10 crore, I'm investing 15 crore, so 15 crore is 15% of my company. So इसको FDI कहेंगे हम, because somebody purchasing 15% of my 15% of my company, which means he wants to have a say in my company. But एक और invest करता है सिर्फ 1 CR करता है, so that is less than 10%, which means it is called FPI. So it is different from FPI, where foreign entity merely buys shares of a company. FPI does not provide investor with control over the business. So FDI मतलब foreign investors come into India and want to have a say in the business. On the contrary, FPI जो है वो सिर्फ market में invest कर रहे हो, you're investing in the shares. So that is FDI and FDI. So FDI का दो route है, automatic, which means you do not need approval of the government, or the government route. Government route में क्या होगा? You have to take a route of the government से case by case, you have to take approval. Okay, many areas which government feels are strategic, or government feels कि we need to know the business investment, there you can say. For example, recently what government is that all the investment coming from China, जो भी China से आ रहा है, they have to be come through government route. So government will scrutinize every investment, because here China, China as a country, does not have good relations with India. So India is very skeptical about China or China business people intention in India. So that is how it has to be. Foreign investment facilitation portal facilitates the single window clearance application of which are through the approval route. This portal is administered by Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, so ये हो जाता है आपका FDI in NRIs. Now one more, there is a polity news, and you must have come across the entire Rajasthan crisis. So Rajasthan crisis में हुआ क्या recently, that the chief minister wants to he has told the governor that we have the number, because some people, there are one faction led by Sachin Pilot, has said that we are not with the government, so government might be in minority. Minority matlab government does not have the numbers to run the government. So the chief minister, the Gehlot, he said to the governor that let us have a floor test. Floor test matlab कि भी assembly होना चाहिए, assembly का meeting होना चाहिए. When there is assembly meeting, there will be voting happen, and if the government has more than 50%, voting happens, more than 50% vote उनको मिल जाता है, the government will win the floor test, which means they can remain in the government, or else they will have to resign. So अभी ये crisis चल रहा था, and governor and CM के बीच there are problems which are happening. And what is the problem? Well, technically, we cannot say that governor is at fault, but there is a feeling in the media that governor is at fault. But government is just exercising his duty as per his own understanding. But definitely there are question mark. So हुआ क्या? The recent Rajasthan government crisis has brought into the spotlight role of the governor in summoning the house of the state assembly. The governor has returned the proposal of state cabinet seeking to convene a session of the assembly for the second time, which would have allowed Rajasthan chief minister to prove the strength on the floor of the house. This has raised legal question of the power of the government to summon a house. And what are the powers here? Article 174 of Indian Constitution authorizes government to summon, dissolve, prorogue the state legislative assembly. यानी जो assembly का meeting है, that can happen only on the approval of the governor, but the governor can say or can convene only on the advice of the council of ministers headed by chief minister. यानी governor cannot take unilateral decision. Governor can take the decision only when the chief minister advises. But then what is the case? Why here governor is not listening to the chief minister? Because that is a question that has to be asked. Now, in a normal situation, a governor will have to act. Now remember, the prime minister is the real head. Similarly, at state, CM is the real head, which means the president of India, whatever president of India says or does, will be on the advice of prime minister. Similarly, whatever the chief minister at state level will advise to the governor, वो governor वही करेंगे. But why here things are different? And here you have to understand that it is because governor believes that I can use my discretionary power. Discretionary मतलब मेरे पास कुछ freedom है in what I want to do. Governor believes here that if there is a case where governor can need to use his independent mind. अब वो कब कर सकते हैं? because there is a governor might feel that if the chief minister has lost the support of the house and his strength is debatable. So here governor के पास ये power आया है because governor believes that this is a problem, and hence if this is a problem then I can take my own call. But I personally believe that governor should allow the floor of the house and voting should happen, and that that can give the right picture. So that is the problem right now. But governor is exercising his own discretion, and he using technical points and reason, telling that you can do that, and he has given date, I think 15th of after 15th of August, the assembly will reconvene, and then only it will happen. So only time will tell when what will happen. The court highlighted the governor is not an elected authority and mere nominee of the president, and such a nominee cannot have overriding authority over the representatives of the people who constitute the house or houses of the state legislature. Allowing the governor to overrule the state legislature or the state executive will not harmoniously augur with a strong democratic principle and in the provision of the constitution. Which means what governor is doing, it is unbecoming for a for what is happening. So governor को ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए. Governor को should use his power and should have an assembly so that the real number is tested on ground. Okay, so this is what the entire thing is. और floor test में क्या होता है? The voting happens on the floor. Okay, and whoever has the majority, if the government has majority, government will succeed. If government does not have the majority, government will fall. But ये floor test को ही governor जो है वो होने नहीं दे रहा है. Governor ऐसा नहीं कह रहा है होने नहीं दे रहा. Government has said that you can do on this date, but the chief minister and his cabinet is saying no, we want to have tomorrow. Okay, so that is where the problem is. So this is the whole problem that is going on in the Rajasthan. Only time will tell what will happen. Okay, so protesting. So what is fundamental right? So there is recently an article which said that United Nations Human Rights Committee has reaffirmed the protesting peacefully online or in person is a fundamental human right. Now what are human rights? समझते हैं. So the humans, by virtue of the humans, each one of us are human, right? So by human, अगर हम human हैं तो we need to have certain rights. So what kind of right human should have? Okay, you need to ask yourself what kind of right I should have, and you should have right to live. You should have right to food, right to job, right to have an opinion, right to vote, right to right against any kind of exploitation, right against any kind of torture. Okay, right, equal dignity, freedom, right to life. So these are human rights. So by virtue of being human, आपको कुछ rights मिलने चाहिए, and that is where United Nations Convention on Human Charter, United Nations Convention on Human Charter, human rights were created in 1948. उसके basis पर all the countries were asked that you should follow these human rights. Now what the human rights says that the humans are born free, and hence they should have right by virtue of being human. Now why this is being questioned? Because human rights across the world, many countries it is being questioned. And one example was in J&K recently. In J&K, because of the last 1 year effort made by the government where they want to remove the Article 370, in Jammu and Kashmir the internet was suspended. Okay, internet was suspended, and now the internet has come back. But there are claims by people that the speed is very less, and hence it does not allow people to communicate. So having internet freedom is also a human right that recently has been discussed. So right now protesting online and person is a fundamental human right, and it has come in the backdrop of increasing demonstration over issues like political rights and racial injustice. So कहाँ पे हो रहा है racial injustice? USA में हो रहा है. In India also a lot of recently we had CA opposition across, then National Register of Citizens, NRC and CA का जो पूरा issue चल रहा था. So these were rights, and a lot of people believe that government is not allowing people to protest, but it is a fundamental human right. So human rights allow करता है, and as per Article 21 of Human Rights Charter, there should be right to assemble peacefully. That is the human right. Okay, so protester को freedom होना चाहिए, children, anybody, so that they can question the government, they can put their right, but it should be done in a peaceful manner. There should be no violence. Remember, okay, violence allowed नहीं है. Protesters have a right to wear masks or hood to cover their face, and that government should not collect personal data to harass and intimidate participants. The role of journalists, they have the right to monitor and document any assembly, violent and unlawful. So ये जो concept of right है, that has evolved, and today it is believed that individual have all the right, and basically the right क्यों मिलता है? Because on the other end we have government, and government is very powerful. Government बहुत powerful होती है. So in order to ensure that government के ऊपर कोई check and balance हो, we need to have certain rights which will put a check on the government, so that government या government के जो लोग हैं, because let's say tomorrow you become an IPS officer. So if you become an IAS officer, the first thing that will come in your mind that, oh, I'm an IPS officer, I can do anything. You feel very powerful from inside. Okay, because suddenly you'll see that in a district you have so many people around you. But remember, when there is a power, there is also, along the power, there's a lot of discretion also which can be used. What if the power is used against the wrong person? What if the power that you're using, you're crossing the limit? And that is where it is important that people should have right. It should be defined, it should be codified, and it should be there in your mind. आपके दिमाग में होना चाहिए that if I'm doing this, I'm violating the rights of the people. If you're going around in a vehicle and police stops you and says police even though if you followed all the rules, they might harass you, they might put you say, and if you say something, okay, I'll put you behind bar, and that is where misuse of law can happen. So this misuse of law can be reduced only if the right, whatever rights that you have, whether right to right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to liberty, all that thing is very much followed on ground. And for that, these bodies like UN, in India also we have National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, all these bodies, they are proponent of human right, and they look at the cases where the rights are being violated. So India mein these questions are asked again and again, because there's a feeling that in the current government, because of the majority power it has, it is not allowing people to protest properly. So government cannot block internet network, close down website. Okay, government in the name of public safety and public order, you cannot prohibit protests. So that is what this all is saying. Okay, so we need to understand that human right is very much part of our daily lives, and it should be then given. Okay, so the committee interpretation is not important for judges national around the world. Okay, the interpretation तो आपको पढ़ लीजिएगा, just a mere fact about these things. India में क्या है? We have Article 19 Indian Constitution. Article 19 talks about right to freedom. Okay, so freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully. Okay, state, but here state can impose reasonable restriction. अब इसका फायदा उठाते हैं. Now let's say you are doing something and government feels that I should stop you because you are violating, you're crossing the line. Now who will decide you're crossing the line? Now government decides you're crossing the line, and they will put a restriction on you. But whether these restrictions are reasonable or not, अभी यहाँ पे court आ जाएगा, Supreme Court, High Court. But till the time Supreme Court will interpret them, automatically your rights are violated. So this is a problem, because many a time government restricts your rights, your ability to question based on integrity of the India, sovereignty of India, and maintaining public order. अभी आपने Section 144 का नाम सुना होगा, धारा 144. It does not allow people to assemble peacefully. In fact, dhara, Section 144 is even employed in the pandemic reason, so that people should not assemble. But Section 144 is mainly used because there's an extreme situation. There could be a law and order problem, and that is where it is like a tool which you can use in a proactive manner, so that बाद में problem ना हो. But I believe that Section 144 is used so frequently because you have magisterial power. Magistrate ने वो Section 144 लगा दिया. So it restricts people movement. It does not allow people to do anything. But ये reasonable है नहीं है. A court will decide, but court cannot decide every time, because there is so much overuse of Section 144. So I believe we should allow. There should be more opinion. You should question the government. You should ask government why these things are limited, and the media should also be allowed to propagate all these references. Okay, so this is let's come now India-UK Free Trade Agreement. So what is Free Trade Agreement? Free Trade Agreement means, now trade. What is trade? Trade means business. Business in where? Goods, services. Okay, so this trade can happen between countries, right? It can happen between countries. So let's say India and UK. Free trade. Free trade means the goods and services can move from your country to my country and vice versa in certain areas, और उसकी हम list बना लेंगे. And in a free trade, basically the tax जो आपका tariff होता है, the international trade का जो tax tariff होता है, you try to reduce it or you make it zero. So right now, India and UK free trade agreement, they are looking at ways to develop free trade agreement, because earlier UK was part of European Union, and we were negotiating with European Union और India के बीच जो free trade agreement है वो चल रहा था, that we were discussing that free trade agreement is happens. Now usually free trade agreement is not so easy, because it takes years to negotiate and bargain, because every country wants to promote the areas they are good at. Let's say India is good at services, so India wants to ensure that all the service economy of countries are open. They might be good at goods. Let's say some country X is good at goods, वो चाहेंगे हमारा goods का market open हो, so that Indian market is open for them. But most of the time what happens, it leads to very long and debatable negotiations, and many times it is delayed, because you don't come to a conclusion, a consensus नहीं बन पाता है. So we were kind of having discussion with European Union, but in 2016 Britain left Britain left European Union, and that is called Brexit. When the Brexit kind of thing was announced, it was believed that in next 3 years Britain will leave the European Union. So now we can't, तो हमारा जो free trade है European Union से, that will not be applicable for UK, and UK is a big trading partner for us, and that is where UK started pushing to us that let's have free trade agreement. But India ने कहा नहीं, we will have free trade agreement only when there is a clarity about your Brexit के बारे में. आपका Brexit का जो clarity improve हो जाएगा, then we go to do that. Recently, India and UK affirmed their shared commitment towards free trade agreement during the 14th virtual Joint Economic and Trade Committee. The next meeting is scheduled to be held in September 2020 in New Delhi to carry forward the dialogue. The meeting was held in India and UK to revive and revitalize the long-standing trade and economic linkage between them. They agreed to have early harvest scheme or limited trade agreement on lower tariff on the small set of goods, apart from easing rules for select services. Remember, India is good at services and they are good at goods. So you want to reduce the tariff. Tariff में the tax कम कर देंगे, import duty and all, and so that I can do business. So they also resolved to cooperate in the health sector in the COVID-19 pandemic. Previously, India and UK were involved in discussing preferential trading agreement under the proposal of European Union free trade agreement. In FTA, two trading partners eliminate or significantly reduce import duties on maximum number of goods trade between them. तो ये definition है FTA का, free trade agreement. यानी countries आपस में trade करते हैं and they reduce the duties among themselves. India has a strong historical ties with UK, and currently it is one of the most important trading partners. It is a significant partner of India and FDI investor. तो India UK से बहुत सारा investment आता है, and that is why we need to do business with them. The bilateral trade between two countries stood at 15.5 billion USD in 1920 against 16.87 in 1819. So India का engagement UK में कहाँ होता है? Pharma, textile, leather, industrial machinery, furniture, toys. India is also looking to the UK to support India with technology-based products such as high-quality camera, medical devices, and automobiles. So that is the area of free trade agreement. Let's see how this thing moves. Brexit. UK has been pushing India for bilateral trading arrangement since it voted to leave European Union in June 2016 and left in January 2020. But अब तो उन्होंने Brexit छोड़ दिया है, European Union छोड़ दिया है, so now India can do the agreement with them. But again, remember, it is a long process, because आप negotiate करते हो, you come to a point, because what I want UK might not want, and what UK want I might not want. So it is a very challenging a situation where you have to come to a trade agreement. Now coming thing is that again some background. Now why these trading agreement important? Because UK can be a strategic partner. एक अच्छा partner बन सकता है. UK is a very strong nation. UK is technologically rich as well, and UK can help in the United Nations, because United Nations में UK एक permanent member है. So they can help, especially in the issues like China. If it might support India, then India will have an advantage. Okay, recently India has exited from another regional group. India ने यहाँ से इसको छोड़ दिया है. Okay, and because of India has exited this regional group, there is a feeling that we need to do new trade agreement, because पुराना वाला जो है वो disturb हो गया है. So we need to do we need to diversify our trade agreements. We need to increase our exports, because हमारा एक बड़ा market है, but we also need market. We also need to enter other player only, other countries, and then only our economy will improve, and especially the export market. हमारा export बहुत weak है. We have export around $300 billion, but the import is $450 billion. So there's a huge difference between import and export. तो हमको अपना trade balance करना होगा. Trade balance means the export and import should be should be close. दोनों में बहुत difference नहीं होना चाहिए. There should not be much difference because export is income and import is you're paying. So whatever your income is, it should be at least equal to what you're paying. Okay. Export is incoming and import is outgoing. Export में dollar India में आता है. Okay. Positive. And import is dollar going outside. Negative. So you have to have a balance. Review of trade. India could seek a review of trading agreement, including renegotiating tariff on some of the item, along with country of origin certification. So review trade hoga, strategic partner, RCEP. These are some things which are discussed at the background. India is one of the fastest growing large economies in the world, and FTA with UK has played a significant role in enhancing the trade volume of the country. However, according to the policymaker, FTA signed by India with UK have not brought the expected tangible benefits and have hurt the India's manufacturing sector due to liberal rules of origin. Therefore, there is a need to detailed assessment of FTAs in terms of goods, service, and investment flows by all the stakeholders involved. So, liberal rules of origin है मतलब मान लो UK से आ रहा है, and I am liberal, so I am allowing all the item from UK to India easily. Which means UK is good in a certain X item, so that item can easily come and be easily sold in India. So UK will have advantage. Okay. Now, जैसे हमारा अभी हमने rule of origin कह दिया है for all the item, and we want to specifically restrict the Chinese item because China से हमारा एक controversy चल रहा है, the border security and all. So rule of origin में अगर हम China को डाल देंगे, so people will be conscious and government will maybe control that area. Or maybe look at ways in which the trade is not in heavily biased in the favor of China. Trade ऐसा होना चाहिए where both the parties should benefit. If trade is in such a moving in such a manner that one party benefits at the cost of other, then that is not the right approach. Okay, so that is Joint Economic Trade Committee provides a forum to UK companies to enhance their links and develop new partnership with business and decision makers. Government to government negotiation will address issues of market liberalization, market access are conducted through JETCO process. And here UK-India Business Council plays a key role in feeding the views of UK business community in the JETCO process. So you can read it. It's a mere fact all thing. We'll cover this in international relations, the free trade agreement, and of course in the economy as well. Now this common rights, human rights initiative, you can read it, nothing much here. Now let's focus on the French Rafale aircraft. Now this has been news. So let's go a little in the background. So India and France have signed a deal of 36 Rafale aircraft. So Rafale is the 5th generation. It is one of the top of the lines aircraft in the world, and there are only few aircraft which can match its capability. It has a very strong history. It has a very strong track record, and it is one of the most best fighter planes in the world right now. And recently, India has received the first batch out of 36 Rafale, which is going to come by 2021. Now, Rafale are India's first major acquisition of fighter planes in 23 years after Sukhoi jets were imported from Russia. So Sukhoi jets 90s में आए थे. After that, we never had aircraft internationally. And since then, we have been working to find a final deal, but ho nahi paya. And why it is important? Because Rafale will help us making good relationship with France as well. So there's a joint strategic vision, especially in Indian Ocean, so that you can have we can fight in the area or we can cooperate in the area. Second is upgradation of air combat facilities. So India के पास क्या है? Mirage है, we have MiGs, and of course we have Sukhois. Okay, but then we have our own indigenous maybe क्या बोलते हैं Tejas. Okay, so but ये developing phase में है. So we need to work a lot and we have to increase our the air strength because we are surrounded by two countries, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Pakistan and of course China, who have been harping at us, and we have to be stronger. Now remember, what is the problem here? The problem here is that जो आपका China है, they are definitely much stronger. But what is the way forward? We can't just bog down what China says. Strength respects strength. Always remember. So we have to make ourselves more stronger, and that is the only way. हमारा economy strong होगा, हमारा defense strong होगा. ये problem border का everything will be resolved automatically. China is just taking advantage of the situation because India is still is not in a situation to combat China. So upgradation of air combat capabilities, it will significantly bolster India's air combat capabilities, especially when it is facing hostile neighbors like Pakistan and China. Unmatched capabilities, aircraft proved its unmatched capabilities in air combat mission, Afghanistan, Libya, Mali. तो ये इंडिया के लिए important है. Why it is significant? Because India is the fourth country after France, Egypt, and Qatar to have this thing, and it has a very strong uh, we are also procuring medium range modular air to ground weapon system. तो air से ground hit करने वाला weapon system. Hammer. Remember, these are important for the fact for prelims MCQ. The Indian Air Force is also in the process of procuring a new generation medium range air to ground weapon system Hammer to integrate with Rafale jets. Hammer, highly agile modular munition extended range, is a precision guided missile developed by French defense major Safran. Okay, so it will be a game changer and definitely will be a game changer because हमारा जो ये Rafale आ जाएगा, we are going to be better than China and of course Pakistan in the areas. Okay, so game changer because India will be able to match their superior kinetic performance. Border clash with China because China was the best jet है वो J-20 है, so our jet will be better than them. Okay, and of course one more concern is that हमारा IAF का जो force fighter jets का strength है that is coming down. So we need at least 42 squadrons. Squadron मतलब जैसे एक squadron में इतने number of planes fighter aircrafts होते हैं. So we need 42. हमारा सिर्फ 31 रह गए हैं. So we are we are less and hence we need to add more. सिर्फ इससे काम नहीं चलेगा. We need MiGs. We need Rafale. We need our own indigenous Tejas. Okay. तो हमको अभी डेवलप बहुत करना पड़ेगा. The only problem is that पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? Okay. So one way is of course we will import whatever is needed so that our defense is not compromised at current level. The second is of course we have to focus on a lot of indigenization of defense. आपको मैन्युफैक्चर करना पड़ेगा. आप बार बार कितना खरीदोगे? And remember the cost of these aircrafts are way too high. Way too high. Where will get the money? Because money is a huge factor. Right now these aircraft, every aircraft is around 1600 crores. Can you believe that one aircraft is 1600 crores? So that is huge. I'm not saying that aircrafts are not, because in aircrafts the technology making is a big cost, and you don't make aircrafts in lakhs or thousands. You just make few hundreds, and that is why cost per unit item is so high, and R&D investment बहुत ज़्यादा आता है. So we need to develop our own capability so that tomorrow we can import as well if we want to, export as well if we want to. But we need to strengthen our defense, the air support, because today the warfare is not going to be fought on the land, but it is more on the air. Okay. In fact, I would say cyberspace is another area where India need to strengthen. The cyberspace, airspace, land, navy, all these areas have to be strengthened. By 2023, Pakistan Air Force will have 27 fighter squadrons, while China's PLA force will assist to have at least 42 squadrons against India. So if there is a big idea that what if China and Pakistan हमें इकट्ठे attack कर दे? What if both of them attack us together? So you might have two front war. हमें two front war करना पड़ेगा, and there for that we need to have our the equipments ready. We need to have these machines ready so that if the problem happens tomorrow, we are ready. And remember, if these weapons are ready, they will not attack. But if the moment we become weak, then there is a problem. So government has planning a lot of things. India has planned, procure light combat aircraft Mk1 from Hindustan that is limited. However, supplies from HAL behind the scheduled induction plan. Then issued with Russia, 12 Sukhoi lost in accidents are being replenished by HAL through contact with Russia, which are being approved by the government. So we are trying to develop our bench strength, and then only things are going to be there. Assimilation of Rafale has the capability to boost the defense sector of India. For the same, there is a need for constant dialogue mechanism between India and France to further enhance its strategic and military ties. Meanwhile, India must procure 21 MiG aircraft from Russia, which will be inducted into service at an additional squadron. The fitting of additional India-specific enhancement in Rafale is a necessary aspect which must be done through the exchange of technology and interventions with France. Okay, so these are the areas. Okay, so what is Rafale? It's a three single seat, two twin seat. Will be stationed in Ambala Air Base. It's a twin-engine multi-role combat aircraft, and top speed is this much. It has a weight of almost 25 tons. It can fly up to 3,700 kilometers. That is huge. Okay, it has all the capabilities of ground support, aerial reconnaissance, in-depth strike, interception, nuclear deterrence. So these are the advantages. So India purchased it in a 15,000 crore deal to procure 36 Rafale from French Air Force Major Dassault Aviation. Okay, so these are the this thing. इससे पहले भी हमारा एक deal था, but that deal did not happen. And the new government came, they started a new deal. So Rafale, it will lead to air supremacy because of course it is a very sharp machine. It has a very strong history, and it has a wide range of weapons. में क्या होता है? They can be missiles. Okay, they can be guided missiles. They could be Scalps cruise missile, weapon system. So it has all the things. जैसे Meteor क्या है? हम लोग डिफेंस से पढ़ेंगे. It is a next generation beyond visual range air to air missile. Beyond visual means aircraft is going, fighter pilot plane is going, and we can't see, but still we can hit the target beyond visual range. Okay, Meteor missile can target enemy aircraft at 150 kilometer away. It can destroy enemy aircraft before they actually even come close to the Indian aircraft. Okay, Scalp missile, it can hit target 300 kilometer away. Mica missile system, it has a very versatile air-to-air missile. It can come with a radar seeker and can be fired at short range to have long range well up to 100 kilometers. It is already in service with the IAF Mirages, and it is a primary weapon of the Rafales as well. Air-to-air target means this is a fighter plane and you hit it on the air itself on the fighter plane. Ability to strike air up to 150 and safely hit a land target of 300 kilometers within the territory makes them one of the deadliest fighter jets around the world. होता क्या है? Let's say this is India and this is Pakistan. This is border. Now, in a normal situation, a MiG will have to go here and then come back, hit. Their radars will catch and they will respond also. But Rafale, being such a strong machine that it can hit the targets on a further distance, I don't have to go deep inside the Pakistan to hit the targets. Similarly, the other part is because of its strength, speed, and of course its agility and the anti radar mechanism. Okay, that is a very strong advantage it has. So that is what Rafale is all about. So let's see. Pakistan is already unhappy about it. Now Black Rain. Now there is a 70th. So when happened? 8th August. Okay. No, sorry, 6th and 9th August, right? Okay. So 70th anniversary of Hiroshima. A Japanese court has recognized 84 survivors of post-nuclear explosion Black Rain as an atomic bomb survivor. This would enable them to avail free medical benefit. What is Black Rain? Basically, हुआ क्या था? When this Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb were, a mushroom kind of, vapor happened, and then it mixed with the atmosphere, and what came down was a kind of a black rain. So estimate 69% of the building in Hiroshima were destroyed in atomic bomb. The debris and soot from this mixed with radioactive fallout from the bomb raised high in the atmosphere in the form of mushroom cloud. The material combined with the vapor in the atmosphere and came down as dark drop of liquid that have been called black rain. Survival of the black rain described it as consisting of large greasy drops that are much heavier than normal raindrop. और ये highly radioactive है, and these radioactive material when came down, it caused a lot of illness to people across. A study conducted in 1945 itself showed that black rain has come down to as far as 29 kilometers away from ground zero. The rain contaminated everything it came in contact with, and the dead fish were reported floating in water bodies, and severely ill cattle were seen lying in the field. It has caused acute radiation symptoms in many who were exposed to it, with reports of people suffering from nausea and diarrhea for weeks. The ARS includes sore throat, loss of hair. Over time, people were exposed, developed cancer. So इससे क्या होता है? There are genetic mutations happen in your body because of this acute radiation symptoms, and this genetic mutation leads to causing cancer and dying early as well. And remember, it causes means it passes from you to your coming generation as well. So it is intergenerational. So this black rain is reference has come. We're just recalling what happened in the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'll be discussing this in the international relations when I'll be discussing about the nuclear, nuclear, policy of the world, the nuclear proliferation treaty, and all those things, NPT and all, CTBT. Okay, तो वो सब discuss करेंगे तब देखेंगे. Now Bharat Air Fiber. So Bharat Air Fiber is launched by Ministry of Communication in Maharashtra. It is a fiber service introduced by BSNL as a part of Digital India. It has a range of 20 kilometers and it can provide internet connectivity up to 100 Mbps. It is a completely wireless and offers broadband up to 10 Mbps up to a distance of 5 kilometer, and it can give remote services. So ये भारत एयर फाइबर है. It is Bharat is given by BSNL. Now one more important news. I would say important because it comes around again and again. But let's take an example. So this news is mainly about the Project Tiger. Okay, so right now the 29th of July was the Global Tiger Day, and India is the country which has the highest number of tiger in the world. Okay, and it is our national animal as well. So Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had released a detailed status of tiger, co-predators and prey in India report on the eve of Global Tiger Day. The report compares the information obtained on the 3 earlier tiger surveys, 6, 10 or 14, and survey estimate the tiger population trends at the country level. तो हुआ क्या है, हमारे country के tiger बहुत बढ़ गए हैं. I remember when I was preparing for UPSC, we discussed that there are only just 1400 tigers in India, and that increase today, the numbers have almost double, okay, with almost 2967 tigers. 4 years in advance has achieved the target set by 2010. So हमारा tiger का number double हुआ है, and that is a very good sign. The head of the government at the tiger range countries and set itself had resolved to double tiger number across their global range by 2022, और इंडिया ने वो पहले अचीव कर लिया है 2 years ago, signing St. Petersburg Declaration on the Tiger Conservation. Okay, and 29 July is a Global Tiger Day celebrate होता है. So there are currently 13 tiger range countries. So these are the countries where tiger is found. Okay, just look at the countries and imagine the map. So India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Nepal, Russia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So these are the area countries where tiger is found. Okay, right now tiger population is 2967, 33% increase from 2014. The 2017 census once in every 4 years has set Guinness record for being the largest camera trap wild survey. पहले हम लोग क्या करते थे, हम लोग we used to take pug marks. So tiger जब travel करता था pug mark होता था, and जैसे हमारा आपका we have our finger prints and all. So pug marks were also unique. So through pug mark you used to count, but later on the technology of camera cam, so the camera trap, because every tiger का कुछ slight difference होगा, and that is how the camera trap so the cameras are put across the wildlife sanctuaries, and we get the information of camera trap, and tigers are observed increasing at a rate of 6% per annum in 6 to 18. Largest contiguous tiger population in the world is about, this point is very important from MCQ point of view. Largest contiguous tiger population in the world is about 724 tiger were found in the Western Ghats. So Western Ghats कहाँ पर है? You must be knowing. So Western Ghats, this is India. This is ये जो पूरा है आपका, right from Maharashtra till Kerala, we have this whole range called Western Ghats. So we have Sahyadri Mountain. We have many mountain ranges here. इसको Western Ghats बोलते हैं. Western Ghats is very good for ecology. Flora and fauna के लिए बहुत famous है. And it is one of the hot spots in the world. What is a hot spot? मतलब यहाँ पे बहुत सारा आपको animal and plants का diversity मिलता है, and it is very important for conservation purpose. So you have Nagarhole, Bandipur, Wayanad, Kerala, Mudumalai, Satyamangalam, Bilgiri, Ranganath Swamy, Temple Block. So these are आपको बहुत सारे यहाँ पे tigers नजर आते हैं. Now this fact is important. Which has the highest number of tiger? Madhya Pradesh has the highest number of tiger, followed by Karnataka and then Uttarakhand. Northeast has suffered losses in population. Further, tigers sit in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha have steadily declined. Out of 50 tiger reserves in the country, the 3 reserves, Mizoram Dampa Reserve, Bengal Bagsa Reserve, and Jharkhand Palamu Reserve has no tiger left. ये fact important. Remember this whole global tiger report जो है, every line is important because you might get MCQ here. Now, which is the highest number of tiger population? That is Jim Corbett in Uttarakhand. Corbett Tiger Reserve have 231 tigers in 2018. Project Tiger was launched in 1973 with just 9 tiger reserves. So today we have more tiger reserves, more than 50 हो गए total. Okay. One of the population remain confined to small protected areas. What are the concerns? Which some of them habitat corridors that permit tiger movement between them. Most of the corridor habitat in India are degrading due to the unsustainable human use and development project. अब मान लो ऐसे tiger एक forest है, and there's one more forest. Now here there is linkage and tiger roam from here to here. Now you're making a road here. Now that is a problem, because when you're making a road here, you are impacting the movement of the tiger, and that is where the human use and development project has impacting. So one way is that you may need to make a you need to make such infrastructure whether this flora and fauna is not impacted. But बहुत मुश्किल है because India is also a country where population is very high, demands are very high, development concerns are very high, so environment many times take a backseat. Just 23% of India's land is forested, and as per our national forest policy, it should be 33%. तो बहुत मुश्किल है 33% पहुंचना. So we need to improve our forestation, and of course we need to secure the forest reserves, the national parks, and all these areas. Okay. So in areas where tiger has not been recorded, the population has declined. Restoration needs to be processed by improving protection, augmentation of prey, reintroduction of tiger for a period of time. Some reserves like Simplipal, Odisha, Pakri, Andhra Pradesh are below their potential, require resources and targeted management. So tiger needs space, isolation, and protection. Tiger and other wildlife are kind of a soft power that India has to show on the international front. Despite several constraints such as less land mass, India has 8% of biodiversity because of its culture and saving and preserving nature. India has 70% of the world tiger population. It is tirelessly working with 13 tiger range countries toward nurturing of the tiger. Okay, so this one more thing. Government is working on the program to provide water and fodder to animals at the forest to deal with the challenge of human-animal conflict. And for this, lidar-based survey technology will be used. Is a method of measuring distance by illuminating the target with a laser light and measuring the reflection with a sensor. तो ये हम लोग अब man-human conflict को कम करने के लिए will use this technology. So this is National Global Tiger. It's a big news. Read it. This is very important from prelims point of view. Remember. Now there is a news called Galapagos Island. So this Galapagos Island यहाँ पर है देखो. Okay, in South America. Now, Chinese ships are frequently entering the Ecuador waters for commercial fishing near Galapagos Island. That is why it is in news. But why Galapagos Island is famous? Because it is an island for unique species and hosts variety of aquatic wildlife, including marine iguanas, fur seals, and waved albatross. The giant tortoise, जिससे इनका नाम आया था, they are dead now. They are called Galapagos. Gave island its name. Ecuador made a part of as a wildlife sanctuary in 1935, and sanctuary became in 1959. It is UNESCO's first World Heritage Site. Okay, this fact is also important from news point of view. It was here the British naturalist Charles Darwin made key observation in 1885 that shaped the world theory of evolution. Darwin described this island as a world in itself. So this is the Galapagos Island. Now this is called dhole. What is dhole? Dhole is like it is a cannon. Dog की तरह होते हैं, and they are carnivorous. Remember. Okay, so Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh rank high in the conservation of dhole in India according to the new study. And these are canine native to Central, South, East Asia and Southeast Asia. And we have large number of them, but they are endangered. So एक क्या होता है जो भी animal होता है and plants. So there is a body called IUCN, and this body comes with a red list. In the red list, they tell about the animals or plants which might die tomorrow, and hence we need to conserve them. और ये क्या करते हैं? They give status. So there are endangered species, critically endangered, endangered, okay, like that. So this dhole is endangered by IUCN as a population are decreasing, are fewer than 2,500 adults. And why they are dying? Because of habitat loss, loss of prey. They don't have animals whom they can feed on. Competition with other species, the persecution. कई बार उनको मार देते हो because they attack the livestock. All these factors are there. Disease transfer on domestic dogs as well, because they look like dogs. Dhole plays an important role as apex predators in the forest ecosystem. Besides the tiger, dhole is the only large carnivore in India that under IUCN endangered category. Okay, so this is, you need to remember this dhole. Then one more, Hoolock gibbon. It's a species of apes. Only species of apes found in India are threatened by extinction in the Ukhrul and Kamjok district of Manipur, a report has claimed. Okay. So two districts used to cover with dense tropical rainforest provide ideal tree canopies for the arboreal. Arboreal means which can travel on the on the trees, brachiating ape species. Rampant deforestation for timber, forest fire, and indiscriminate hunting has led to decline of the population. Without a tree canopies, gibbons cannot swing from branch to branch and stake out their territories. They also cannot adapt to living on ground and cannot bear the high temperature brought them by loss of green cover. Okay, that is why they are dying. The gibbon has a much wider range. It is found all the states of northeast, restricted between the river south of the Brahmaputra and east of the Dibang River. Outside India, it is found in Bangladesh and Myanmar. Eastern Hulock gibbon inhabits specific pockets of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam in India, and southern China and northeast India. Of the two, the western Hulock is listed as endangered in the IUCN Red List, while the eastern is listed as a vulnerable. So we need to conserve them. Okay, so I've covered most of the news. Some news are to be covered. I'll see them. Okay, you can go through the news. Okay, so it's a big topic. So right now you can cover. I've covered most of the topics, but these are some small topics I'm going to cover. This is also covered. This is also covered. So these are some small 2-3 topics I'll be covering tomorrow's NCERT lecture, and then I'll be covering with them. If you have any question, you can ask me. Then I'll close for the day, guys. थोड़ा current affair थोड़ा heavy हो जाता है, I believe. Okay, so bear with me. I can understand, but because I have to cover a lot of topics in a little time, 2 hours. If you want, I can cover less topic. If the pace is high, you can also tell me. Any more questions? Let me know. Yes, Ankit, tell me. So Ankit has a question.